A very good afternoon to all our attendees. I am Punita Sabharwal Kapoor, Deputy Editor, Entrepreneur Media India, and your moderator for this session. Today, we have another interesting session at the Education Conclave talking about how the EdTech titans are reshaping the EdTech landscape. In this session, we are going to discuss how these EdTech entrepreneurs are thinking about the future of education, from remote learning to new hybrid models. So before I get into the discussion mode, let me first introduce our esteemed panelists for this session. We have Ajay Sridharan, VP SEA, Degreed. We have Erwin Anand, Managing Director, Udemy India. We have Siddhant Jain, Co-founder and CEO, Video Cipher. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us today. So before we start the discussion, let me first set the tone of the topic. Well, going beyond supporting school curriculum, helping candidates prepare for tests, EdTech today has spread its wings far and wide. From K-12 and test preparation to skilling and learning management systems, EdTech startups have branched out to cater to various submarkets. This has a significant impact on the otherwise fragmented and conventional education system, which has failed to address many crucial questions which have a direct effect on the economy. From skill development and reskilling to upskilling, university-level courses, and even B2B models, EdTech has shown the potential to disrupt the entire value chain. So let me first start with you, Erwin. Will you tell us how, since the COVID-19 outbreak, it has accelerated the growth for EdTech companies, and are there any insights which you could share with us in terms of the kind of courses picking up lately?
Yeah, thank you first of all for having us here. Come COVID-19, this is March 2020. The pandemic hit us suddenly. Countries around the world, they went into the lockdown. All of us were kind of grappling with change, constrained in our house, and trying to be effective at work and trying to study or work from home. What we immediately saw, and I think I would say this for the entire EdTech industry, would be a huge surge in terms of user traction, enrollment, and course consumption on EdTech platforms. Specific from a Udemy perspective, we saw a 3-time surge in terms of course enrollments on the platform.
Okay.
And a huge surge in new learners who essentially came onto the platform. This is, of course, with people having more time at their disposal at home, but also heightened anxiety around jobs and careers, which the pandemic also triggered. This new learner surge and the surge of enrollments led to a growth in almost all areas or topics when it comes to skills being taken or consumed on the platform. But in fact, we saw a breadth of courses being consumed on the platform increasing significantly. So be it courses on technology, which is usually one of the bigger scaling areas, or business or personal enrichment, we saw a huge surge in all these 3 segments of courses. Maybe picking up some of these segments. So within technology, web development, data science, artificial intelligence, and these are all the scaling buzzwords. And we saw a huge surge in courses being taken on areas like neural networks or TensorFlow, some of the frameworks and toolkits which are leveraged for developing these solutions. Moving to business, we saw a huge surge in courses being taken in themes like stock trading, financial modeling, business fundamentals. So which meant that people are also using this time to essentially, leverage this time to play in the stock market and to find new sources of income as well. And finally, from a personal enrichment perspective, all of us, right, staying at home, it was daunting for us. And it's important for us to have sanity in terms of physical and mental well-being. And around that, we saw a huge surge in terms of courses being consumed on themes like meditation, on themes like Pilates or physical fitness. People like us also had more times at our disposal to pursue hobbies, which meant a significant increase in course consumptions on categories like drawing or musical instruments. We have another line of business, which is our corporate and enterprise business, which we call as Udemy for Business, wherein employees within companies, they use Udemy as a platform to skill themselves. And we saw a huge surge in course enrollments on Udemy for Business as well, specifically around themes like productivity and personal enrichment. So on productivity, all of us were grappling with how to be effective while working from home. So huge surges, roughly 22,000% increase in terms of course consumption happening in categories like working from home, or telecommuting, or how to manage virtual teams, as an example.
Mhm.
Then, of course, people also trying to be sane at home. So a lot of new themes and topics emerged, like self-discipline, resilience during these times of high anxiety. Uh, uh, so these are the broad trends which we see. Frankly, COVID has led to a significantly high new normal. We are off our peaks post the pandemic, but a new normal has emerged, and the new normal is much higher than the pre-COVID norm.
Sure. So even when you talk about individuals taking up these courses and Udemy business also stepping up. So if you compare both of them, I mean, have the numbers changed in terms of pre-COVID and now post-COVID?
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I said. So I was, from a company perspective, overall, we saw roughly about 5 times increase all over the world. If I were to aggregate all over the world in terms of course enrollments. And today as well, we are settling on a base which is way higher as compared to the pre-COVID norms. Though the economy has significantly opened up, we are in an unlock phase, and people are getting into a lot of distractions other than learning. But we see that there's a fundamental shift in terms of people's receptivity and adoption of online learning platforms, which continues as of today as well.
So, so Ajay, coming to you, you have spent almost 2 decades in the forefront of upskilling, learning, and talent management. But of course, nobody has seen the rise of edtech, which we have seen in the current times in the last 6 months. So, any insights you can share in terms of how the data is changing at degree? You'll have to unmute, please.
Before touching degree, I'd like to say that, usually people say that fear is not good for business, but when COVID hit, fear was good for the education industry, if I could say. People really understood the value, and there used to be a time when the L&D folks used to be really, really skeptical that we are taking the horse to the pond, but the horse is not drinking water, we are not getting adoption, and so on and so forth. But as Irwin said, things really spiked up. People really understood the reason why they need to really kind of keep themselves updated, because what is relevant today may not be relevant tomorrow. For example, I mean, one of the key quotes by the IBM president, it said that, the shelf life of a skill is 3 to 5 years. So we should not be hiring or looking at people who are right now skilled. We should look at the people who have the learning propensity or the learning agility to keep themselves updated. This is something that came out as a very important trend in this whole COVID situation. And if you ask me, I mean, we did some research, and 38% of the Indian corporate sector stood up during this time, and they started offering a lot of things to their people, so that, because job security was one of the primary concerns for everybody. And again, when you have that concern, you can't effectively operate on the current situation. So they started, this 38% is a huge number when it comes to it. But then this 38%, I'm talking only about the corporate sector.
Uh-huh.
Our 90% of our workforce is the non-corporate sector, which is like, there was not much that was happening because there was nobody to sponsor this thing. And that's where companies like Udemy, or, companies who brought in a lot of different types of flavor, and people understood that it is not always formal learning that takes you somewhere. You can always have an informal learning like stock exchange, as a matter of fact. What Degree did in this whole thing is we started looking at, why should we always look at some formal learning process? Let's look at pathways on wellness, because people were mentally getting psyched out during this time, and their efficacy was really going down. So that actually was the strategy that we adopted during the process of enabling people using the Degree platform. Now, Degree has got, again, two sets. One is a B2C, which is free of cost. Anybody can go and take a license of Degree, and they can access content free of cost, and so on and so forth. And there was a B2B. In the Indian sector, we saw a huge spike in the free subscriptions of Degree, because the platform it adapts to the learning agility of the individual. It personalizes learning at scale, and they were able to see all these stock exchange courses and stuff like that. And the moment they show interest in a Udemy, it is agnostic to content providers. So that kind of content started getting pushed. So effectively, what happened was, apart from the United States, where Degree was launched around 8 years back, India is number 2 as far as the free users of Degree is concerned today, which is a great stuff because people have gone ahead and enabled, apart from, I'm not talking about corporate here. Corporate, we already have million plus licenses that are being enabled. B2B is a separate ballgame altogether. But this is the impact that we saw as far as pandemic is concerned. And from a B2B standpoint, one of the key missions of Degree is to jailbreak the degree. And we always used to say that, people want, the market wants to talk the language of skills, but they talk the language of degrees, certificates, job roles, competency frameworks. Today, they have started to talk the language of skills. And the NEP 2020 is a great example. It's about applicability. It's not just about how knowledgeable you are, how effectively you'll be able to apply it. These are things that are coming out as new trends.
So we'll come back to you again. Coming to you, Siddhant, as we see the growing need for videos by all these edtech platforms, we also have the problem of piracy growing like a menace. So how are you tackling the elephant in the room?
Yeah. Thanks, all, and thanks, Punita. So at Video Cypher, we help edtech and also some media platforms to stream videos on their platform in most secure and smooth manner. So we ensure that the revenues of the course creator are essentially protected against video piracy. So most of you will know that the videos which are played via YouTube, Vimeo, or similar technologies, they are very easily downloadable. Students would know which are the popular tools, which are the popular hacks, and how to get a video from a website or app. So what Video Cypher does is, so we provide like Netflix level encryption and screen capture prevention technologies to prevent video piracy. So we have tried to bring what was earlier only in the hands of people like Netflix, Hotstar, to all the educators. So whether you are a small teacher, whether you are a single teacher with a small website, or you are a large education business with say 1 million plus users, so you can use our platform to secure your content. And like as we have seen, coming particularly to like how COVID has impacted like education from what we have seen. So like as such, we are not an e-learning company, but we have 1,000 plus e-learning customers, and we just see from their eyes that what they are seeing. So like we have seen like 2-3 things. So one thing, as Mr. Ajay and Mr. Irwin said, so we have also seen good usage growth amongst our customers. So it has been around 2.5 times pre-COVID and post-COVID. Secondly, certain courses which were not previously online are now coming online because of it being essential. So many meditation yoga courses by NGOs are now also being hosted through us. Then colleges and schools were like, some of them were doing online, but just like as a fancy thing. Now they're all forced to come online, and we have seen that they still don't have the enough technical know-how to do it. So they have faced certain challenges, particularly colleges and schools, but they have like also been forced to come online.
Okay. So Siddhant, like you mentioned, you also serve the media entertainment sector, but how grave is the problem in edtech particularly?
Right. So particularly, if I have to mention edtech, so the problem is like much more grave because say like from a viewer perspective, so like people pay like say 500 rupees for a movie, but they pay like 10,000 to 1 lakh rupees for like a course content. So some of our edtech like players, they saw that increased attempts of piracy. So people try to capture content somehow, put it on torrent, put it on Telegram, and then like there has to be again an update in the technology to make it better. So there have been increased attempts, and there have been updates to like prevent that. And more and more like technical restrictions have come up from us and from also customers, something on their side to restrict users from doing so.
Oh. So Irwin, Ajay, I mean, when both of you entered the Indian market, and Siddhant, when you, started offering your services to international customers, I want to ask all three of you, what kind of tweaking, localization, and personalization you did to suit the requirements of that particular country? And Ajay and Irwin, if you could share India specific examples in particular.
So, Irwin, I'll take this one first, and then probably because yours is content and mine is more platform. So, when we entered, Degreed entered the India market. Predominantly, if you look at Degreed as a platform, it is a learning experience platform. So it is not a content platform. So we, anyways, the core analogy of the platform is to personalize learning at scale. And one of the key features of the India market, and the reason why India is an enticing market for platforms like Degreed, is that we are probably the largest English-speaking country in the world. But what we did was that, I would not say that we have localized, because we don't have content, we don't localize any content out there, but the platform is enabled today to provide local content on the platform. So for example, if there is a Hindi content available or a Gujarati content, it is compatible with such vernacular content as well. So that is definitely available on the platform. Now, having said that, we did not face any challenges till date, whether it be the NASSCOM Future Skills, where they have identified certain skills, or whether it be the NSDC, the skills taxonomy, all these ones. This has been very, very robust, and the way it has been built, that such platforms need not tweak too much. Our ecosystem is actually moving in that direction. But if you ask me, there could be difference of opinion, because tier 3 and tier 4 cities, people need content of vernacular language, and we have seen that as a challenge coming in. Hence, our platform is capable today to deliver vernacular content and compatible today. So we are ready for that, but we have not yet faced any requirement in those directions. Some of them, yes, and we have catered to it in those directions. So we have around 27 languages that we support as on today. Over to you, Irwin.
Yeah, and to add to what Ajay's mentioned, so Udemy set up local operations early 2019. But before we set up local operations, we already had millions of learners and thousands of instructors based in India without having anybody on the ground in India to run the business, which talks about the product market fit, which the company had. Yeah. And then when we launch operations at the same time, since India is the second largest market, that's the largest market outside of the US. So Indian instructors and Indian learners already have a large voice in terms of influencing what needs to be built in future to be able to add incremental value, learning value, and outcome to our learners. And from that perspective, this entire process of learning through data signals, learning through user research, and assimilating that, optimizing and launching innovations and experiment to continue to deliver incremental value, that's always had inputs coming from Indian learners. Specifically, as Ajay talked about, so Udemy is actually a full stack, right? We do our own content. So our localization focuses on, are there any specific needs when it comes to content and courses which are specific to the needs of Indians, both individuals as well as corporates? Language, as Ajay talked about. So are there any local nuances in terms of language which influence either translation of courses or creating courses in native language like Hindi, Tamil, and so on and so forth? So those are areas of local investment. Further, for us, we also have a consumer marketplace, which is fledgling and thriving, 5 million plus learners. It's important for us to be able to proliferate further and penetrate further. And therein, things like payment optimization, pricing optimization, go-to-market optimization, and ensuring that our content is available and streamed on phones, on Indian network bandwidth connections, and all that stuff. All those things become important. So those are the elements in which localization specific to India makes sense. Frankly, we're trying to be better at everything, right? It's all about continuous optimization, continuous improvement. And the objective is to ensure that we innovate on the learning experience to be able to continue to drive incremental outcome for the learners.
So did you also localize in terms of having Indian instructors in place for all kind of content, for all the courses available?
So in that respect, Udemy is a beautiful marketplace. Just to give you the context about how Udemy works, it's a marketplace for learning, which means that anybody who has a skill and passion to teach. So Ajay, if he wants to teach sales, right? So he can actually come on Udemy and create on the platform, a course on the platform, which is immediately available for learners, not only in India, but anywhere in the world, right? And on Udemy, so what we see is that most of the instructors are actually practitioners. So if Ajay teaches a course on sales, he'll teach it in a way that it is extremely practice oriented. It is extremely relevant for somebody who's on a job. And he'll teach in a way that the skill can be applied on the job and solve a problem at hand there and then, right? So that's how Udemy works. And the instructor can be based in India, or it could be based anywhere in the US. So we've got Indian instructors who have courses on the platform. 80% of their revenues and students actually come from outside India, and vice versa. There are global instructors as well who have a bulk of their audience and students in India. So the beauty here is that because of this thriving marketplace, today Udemy has more than 130,000 courses on the platform across 25,000 plus skills, coming from 57,000 plus instructors, with more than 35 million learners who've taken these courses till date, 5 million of those based in India, which means that Udemy has the most diverse and the freshest course and skilling content available on the platform. More and more Indian learners and instructors are proliferating the platform to leverage the opportunities which exist on Udemy, specific to India and also audiences abroad as well.
Okay, so you saw a growth in terms of Indian instructors coming on board in the last 6 months. Has there been a rise in that?
Oh yes, so once the pandemic hit in, we saw 125% in year-on-year increase in new instructors creating courses on the platform. Again, the same thing, right? So there are more people who have time at hand and who are potentially finding incremental sources of income, and they've always been wanting to share their passion and skills with others, but they never really found time for that. And the pandemic gives them that reason, or that impetus to essentially come onto the platform and create courses. So we've seen a huge surge on both sides of the marketplace, which is the instructors on the supply side and learners on the demand side.
Siddhant, coming to you, please share any kind of speaking you have done for the international markets.
Right. So coming from like primarily from technical perspective. So suppose if you see, so now you have two platforms which are primarily built from outside India, and now they are also in India, like Degreed and Udemy. They are also on website. But if you see the Indian largest edtech players like say Byju's, Unacademy, and many others, they are also app only. They don't have a web system, so people can't watch their videos in desktop. So this is due to like certain reasons. One of the key reason is security. That like there it is somehow security is more possible in an app rather than a desktop. So that is why certain people go only for app solutions. And secondly, Indian audience is also Android heavy, and then like some bit of iOS, but it is also mobile heavy. So the whole experience can be customized for the app, and so that is that is something like, for example, which we have seen is like unique from Indian perspective, that very large businesses are app only, and they don't think that the student will need to watch in desktop. But when they focus on like mobile users, so like most of the Indian users, particularly in tier 2-3 cities, they are on like slow internets. So Jio and Airtel penetration has surely helped. The prices have gone down, but still that internet is not good as a Wi-Fi in a metro city. So we have to tweak certain bit of our technology for that. So the sizes which we stream lectures like for Indian users is typically like 1.5 to 2 times lower than what we do outside India. So some of these customizations related to technology we have to do to be able to better cater Indian students.
Okay, sure. So all of you, I mean, post the pandemic and particularly next year onwards, I mean, then everyone, we hope that might go back to work as expected. So do you see the numbers will remain the same, or do you see there might be a stagnation in the market in the next year?
Everyone would want, Siddharth, why don't you go first here?
Thank you, Ajay. So actually, we kind of saw a peak in new users in June, July. Now that peak has kind of subsided. So it is like still much larger than pre-COVID times, but we feel that the peak of new users has from our perspective, has a bit of now stabilized. But like whoever has come online, for example, some coaching teacher in some part of India, if they have already come online, now they wouldn't leave that asset, their website or app and the videos which they have created. That process is on, and they know that in many situations they will need that. So that is surely a push towards like e-learning, even like without pandemic staying, it will still, I feel, will be there.
Yeah, and I'll take a leaf from Ajay's response earlier. We are in this era which we call as the fourth industrial revolution. This is a often used buzzword, right? And this era is I think the few determinants of this era are fast pace of change, breathless pace of change, and the pandemic also suddenly hit us, right? And it kind of disrupted our lives. It is a testament of that. Another characteristic of fourth industrial revolution is digital and tech disrupting all walks of life. So whether it is us moving from voice calls to WhatsApp to FaceTime and now Zoom, or ordering on phone versus ordering through food aggregator apps, or working on Microsoft Office to moving to Microsoft Office 365 and Google Docs, right? So there's a transition which has happened in terms of digital across all walks of life, and that has also been accelerated by the pandemic. And the third theme here is also heightened globalization. Our stock markets are all interrelated. Our supply chains are all interrelated. And we also realized during the period of pandemic that the virus also does not really know any boundaries. It also proliferated across the world in a jiffy, right? And because of that fast pace of change, digital tech disrupting all walks of life, heightened globalization, we were living in an age where skills are changing really fast, and companies and individuals need to keep pace with change, and they need to continuously invest in themselves so they continues to stay relevant and be ready for future as well at the same time. From our vantage point, as Ajay also talked about earlier, we say that in this economy, this is a skilling economy, and continuous learning is the new currency. And more people are realizing that as well. So recently, Udemy released the skills gap report, and I'll share a few anecdotal numbers from that skills gap report from India. 92% of respondents, this is 1,000 plus people who were professionally employed in India. 92% people said that there's a skill gap in India. 76% of them that said that they are personally affected by that skill gap. 84% of those people said that the traditional education which they'd gone through had not really prepared them for the workplace of today. 82% of them said that the skills which they have right now are not useful for the work which they are doing right now. 76% people said that in 5 years, they expect the work they are doing to be replaced by bots and robots. Yeah. And 61% of the people said that we are looking at our organizations to provide skilling solutions, and that if the organization does not provide it, they would rather leave the organization. 90% of people said that they are looking at investing in themselves to keep them abreast with the change. Yeah. So irrespective of the pandemic or not, we are in an era which is characterized by constant pace of change. Gone are the times when you actually do a college degree and you pass out, and that gives you a right to earn a job and then live with that job forever. Today, you enter the job market, you get into a role, the job requirements of that role changes with time, and you are then left to yourself to essentially keep pace and be relevant in the job market of today, and which is hyper competitive. Skilling is the only way to do that. Continuous skilling is the only way to do that. India, again, as Ajay talked about, has the highest number of college graduates in the world, more than 100 million college graduates. But the unemployability is really low. So the need of the hour is practical skills. And edtech platforms like us are the only way in which education meets the learner in their moment of need, when they actually need education, at their own pace, at their own time, at their own pace of choosing, right? So this is the future of education. Traditional classroom education is not relevant or not effective in the workplace of today. So we will see a radical shift, and this is going to be continuing in future. And that's what Ajay also talked about, that classical degrees and all that stuff potentially become irrelevant in future. Ajay, you want to add in?
I love your passion, Irvin, honestly. so Punita, and I'll keep this brief in terms of, I would like to answer this in two folds. And so firstly, pandemic did create a problem, but for the people in general. But what it did was that it democratized learning. From an individual standpoint, today the learner need not be told what he or she needs to learn. There is enough and more information out there. They can go and figure it out.
Yeah.
And the second piece is that from an organization standpoint, the organization exactly knows what they want. So because they are all talking about the skills framework of ontology, they really want to look at skills as a currency that they can really start working on. So we are now, I mean, if you ask me, We are working on something like skills analytics, where we are talking about interoperability of skills, where two different people, a person from a quality orientation can really become a programmer, and there are overlapping skills. So how do we kind of quickly move these guys? So organizations are talking in that level of workforce alignment today. Individuals are getting ready for that kind of workforce alignment today. So there is a very good synchronization that is coming up in the market. Now, having said that, post-COVID, I don't know when that post-COVID is going to come, because we still don't have the vaccines, but I hope that we get it in the next 6 months. Nothing is going to change. This is going to become the new normal. It is going to get more competitive. Relevance is going to be the most important for all of us from a skills standpoint. And that is exactly what, and I'm so happy that our government has actually brought in this NUP, because I'm pulling it back there, because that is the basis and premises of just knowledgeable people are not going to get the jobs. It has to be knowledgeable. It has to be application based. And those are the people, if they get the job also, they will not be able to survive in that job, because they will not be competitive enough, and they will be replaced very fast, right? So that's what my two pieces is. That one, it has democratized learning. Everybody can learn from anything. Everybody can be a contributor, like in platforms like Udemy. People can become a contributor, and they can become an SME. Okay, so everybody can be an entrepreneur, everybody can be a learner, and everybody can contribute to the overall ecosystem of our country. There were three phases of the education reforms. One, 1969, Indira Gandhi, then it was Rajiv Gandhi, and today it is Mr. Modi. If you look at the three, there is drastic change in the way we are thinking about education in itself. And platforms like Degree, Udemy, Videosafar, these are platforms that are going to be solid enablers to this whole thing. And we are, to be very honest, we are at the right time, at the right place, doing the right thing. That's what I feel.
Okay, sure.
Just adding one point here, like bit contradictory, not totally, but since I come from a chemical engineering background, so I do feel that there are certain skills which can be learned purely online, but certain skills always require a physical presence of a tutor and also a certain lab setup. So though like in COVID everything was online, but like when it goes ahead, so it can be a flip learning model where the kind of theoretical part is all online, but still the practical hands-on stuff for the things which have to be done, they will still be offline. So it can be a combo of both.
There is never an or situation, Siddhant. It is always an and situation. This and this. Nothing is going to replace anything here. Human beings, especially in India, we will have a human touch. I agree with you there.
Yeah, and I represent Udemy, but I also learn through Kindle books. I learn through interactions with my peers. I learn through interactions with my kids. So we learn through multiple formats. But all we're saying is that online will become more relevant and will become, I would say, the preferred platform for learning for future, specifically in the context of workplace learning.
So, Erwin and Ajay, I mean, while working in the Indian market, are there any particular learning which you have drawn, which you think has been taken global?
I just have one here, and then I'll hand it over to Erwin, because he deals with the larger, I would say, individual segment of the market. I feel that the Indian learner is a jack of all trade and master of none. That has been, so we kind of consume information. We have a tendency to consume information. So, for example, if I'm looking at a global rollout in Cisco, I think the maximum consumption of information is happening from the Indian subcontinent. Adoption is never a challenge. And that has been our inherent nature, because we are 1.3 billion. We are perpetually in a competitive situation. And therefore, one position that is there in a company, there are tens of thousands of people stacking up to kind of take that position. So you have to stay relevant. So that is one piece that I have learned, but even you would have better statistics, because we predominantly deal in the B2B segment there.
No, I think.
And Siddhant, yourself as well. Sorry about that. Yep.
Yeah, I echo what you said, Ajay. So Indians are the most voracious learners amongst all our learners all over the world. They ask the most questions, to an extent that we are actually figuring out how do we actually do question and answer management at scale, with more and more Indian learners joining programs and instructors finding it hard to keep pace. So which might mean India-specific optimization in terms of our Q&A experience. Should we be optimizing it to ensure that often asked questions, they are easy to discover and come up on top, and so on and so forth. And we set guardrails around that. I think the other area where what we're doing in India and we are exporting is mobile optimization. So compared to a lot of other markets, Ajay and I come from companies which are headquartered in the West, in the US, and the appreciation and understanding of how learning can be done through small screen devices and the underlying technology and user experience which enables that to happen is an area which is truly getting optimized and innovated in the context of Udemy in countries like India, and hence is being leveraged for other markets as well.
Coming to what like Ajay and Irwin said regarding that Indian are voracious like learners. So like from a stats which I also publish on LinkedIn sometimes is that the number of videos like per user in terms of Indian courses which we see are much more than the outside India courses. So when a course creator outside India sells a course for $100, he might have just 10-20 hours of content. But when an Indian course creator creates a course of $100, it has something like say 100-200 videos. So that is surely a difference between India and outside India.
So Irwin, somebody named Nandini Ray actually wants to access the Udemy skill gap report, for which you shared a lot of insights some time back. So they're asking how they can access it.
Oh, it's available on the Udemy blog. So you can access publicly blog.udemy.com. Just search for it on the internet and you'll find it. We are comparing skill gaps in countries like India, Brazil, Spain, and Mexico. So there are extremely rich insights in that report.
Oh, thanks. So with that, we'll have to conclude the session. Going forward, concluding remarks from each one of you.
My side, I think it's about. I think for us, we all need to develop an appreciation on learning. For somebody who is 40 plus and trying to myself being relevant in the workplace of today, I found learning to learn being the most important skill. So that's a key message for everybody. The more we start developing the appreciation that we need to learn something, and that it's important for us, we will find what really satisfies our appetite. So let's create the skill of learning to learn, and that will hold us instead for future.
The only difference that I would like to say is that in today's ecosystem, the way we are going and the way our again NEP and stuff, I think we are all moving towards if you learn, you will earn. So it's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. So I'll leave it there. So it's you have to learn to earn. Simple. Keep learning.
That was quick and short.
I agree with both Irwin and Ajay, and like just we also like need to invest in technologies which enable the online shift and the scale shift. So both in terms of say live education or say like recorded video education or quizzes and testing and something like Mr. Irwin said regarding Q&A. So we have to evolve more and more technologies which can be used by everybody across the world. Like even individual teachers that can have access to that simple technology so that they can like simulate the online like classroom in an online space.
So thank you so much, gentlemen, for sharing some great insights with us. And thank you for taking the time and being a part of our education conclave today. Hope to see you all in person.
Thank you so much.